Every time you think California regulators have finally found the last thing they can regulate, they somehow discover another item sitting in your garage. Cars, regulated. Fuel, regulated. Engines, regulated. Emissions, regulated. Now California wants to regulate the tires you buy after you wear out the ones that came on your vehicle. State officials say it's about reducing emissions and saving drivers money. Critics say it's another example of government bureaucrats making decisions that should belong to consumers. Tonight we're looking at California's proposed tire regulations, the real-world trade-offs nobody seems to be talking about, and why this could be one more example of government solving a problem by creating several new ones. From Seattle to Los Angeles, this is Left Coast News. No apologies, just the truth. Welcome back to Left Coast News. If you're new here, this is the channel where we dig beyond the headline and look at what's actually happening across Washington, Oregon, California, and the rest of the West Coast. If you appreciate fact-based analysis and real conversations about the policies affecting your daily lives, make sure you subscribe and join the discussion. Let's get into it. What California is proposing. The California Energy Commission has officially proposed what they're calling a replacement tire efficiency program. At first glance, this sounds incredibly boring. Tires, who cares? But like most government regulations, the details matter. The state claims there is a loophole in current vehicle efficiency standards. Automakers spend millions designing vehicles that meet federal and state fuel economy requirements. Part of that equation includes low rolling resistance tires that help maximize fuel economy. The state's argument is that once consumers replace those factory tires, many purchase aftermarket options that provide better grip, better performance, or lower cost, but are less fuel efficient. California regulators believe this undermines the environmental gains they expected from the original vehicle design. Their solution? Require replacement tires sold in California to meet state-approved efficiency standards. Beginning in 2028, replacement tires would have to meet new rolling resistance requirements. Then in 2031, those requirements become even stricter. Any tire that fails to comply could be prohibited from sale in California. The government's argument. To be fair, let's start with what the state is saying. California officials estimate that regulations could save drivers nearly $1 billion annually in fuel and electricity costs by 2035. They claim the average driver could save approximately $179 over the life of a set of tires. They also project significant reductions in carbon dioxide emissions. The theory is simple. Less rolling resistance means less energy needed to move the vehicle. Less energy means less fuel consumed. Less fuel means fewer emissions. On paper, it sounds logical, and to a degree, it is. Anyone claiming rolling resistance has no impact on efficiency is simply wrong. Physics is physics. The question isn't whether rolling resistance matters. The question is whether California is considering all the consequences. The tire triangle problem. This is where things get interesting. Tire engineers have been dealing with the same challenge for decades. There are three major characteristics every tire manufacturer tries to balance: rolling resistance, wet weather traction, and tread life. Improving one often comes at the expense of another. There is a reason every tire on the market isn't simultaneously the most fuel-efficient, long-lasting, and highest grip tire ever created, because those goals often conflict. A tire designed for maximum fuel economy isn't usually the tire you want carving through mountain roads. A tire designed for maximum grip isn't usually the tire that delivers the best fuel economy. Consumers currently choose the balance that works best for their needs. California now wants regulators involved in that decision-making process. The question nobody is asking. Here's something that should concern environmental advocates as much as critics. What happens if these tires wear out faster? And before anyone loses their mind in the comments, let's be clear, nobody knows yet. The regulations haven't taken effect, but it is a legitimate question. If drivers end up replacing tires more frequently, then we're manufacturing more tires, shipping more tires, installing more tires, recycling or disposing of more tires. All those processes consume energy. All of those processes generate emissions. If one set of conventional tires lasts 60,000 miles, but a more efficient alternative lasts 30,000 miles, then you've just doubled the manufacturing cycle. At that point, the environmental math becomes far more complicated than simply measuring fuel savings. That's one of the major criticisms being raised by industry groups and tire experts. The state's projections assume these trade-offs remain manageable. Critics aren't convinced. What about performance tires? This is where California could run into another major issue. Many performance tires are internationally designed to maximize grip. Track day tires, autocross tires, sports car tires, high-performance summer tires. Those products aren't built primarily for fuel economy, they're built for traction. If the regulations become restrictive enough, some of those products could disappear from California's market entirely. Not because consumers stop buying them, not because manufacturers stop making them, but because regulators determined they are no longer fit within the approved efficiency standards. Whether you're a racing enthusiast or not, that raises an important question. Should consumers have fewer options because regulators prefer a different set of priorities? The bigger issue. Honestly, this story isn't really about tires, it's about a growing trend. Government agencies increasingly moving beyond setting broad goals and into directing specific consumer choices. California already regulates fuel. California regulates emissions. California heavily influences vehicle design. California is pushing aggressive electric vehicle mandates, and now California wants to influence which replacement tires you can purchase. At some point, voters need to decide where the line is. Should government establish standards and let markets adapt, or should government determine which products consumers are allowed to purchase? Reasonable people can disagree on that question, but it is a question worth asking. The economic impact. The California Energy Commission says the direct cost increase will be relatively small. They estimate roughly $6 more per set during the first phase, around $26 more per set once the stricter phase begins. Those numbers may prove accurate, or they may not. History has shown that regulatory compliance costs often expand beyond initial government projections. Additional testing, additional reporting, additional certification requirements, additional administrative burdens, those costs don't disappear. Eventually, they get passed on to consumers. And right now, consumers are already dealing with higher costs for groceries, insurance, housing, utilities, fuel, and vehicle maintenance. Even small increases matter. At the end of the day, California's tire proposal highlights a larger debate happening throughout the West Coast. Who should decide what trade-offs matter most? The consumer spending their own money, the manufacturer designing the product, or government regulators pursuing policy objectives? Maybe California's projections will prove correct. Maybe drivers will save money. Maybe emissions will drop. But before these rules become law, Californians deserve honest answers about the potential downsides, not just the projected benefits. Because once government gains authority over another part of the marketplace, history shows that authority rarely moves in only one direction. And judging by the reaction from consumers, tire manufacturers, and automotive enthusiasts, this debate is just getting started. What do you think? Should California be regulating replacement tires? Are these standards a reasonable way to reduce emissions and improve efficiency? Or is this just another example of government reaching further into decisions that should belong to consumers? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear where you stand on this one. Once again, thanks for watching Left Coast News. Please like, share, and follow us on all your social media sites. Thanks for watching.